Hi! So, on the previous video we built a standing desk that was wall mounted for my wife, and since it is a standing desk, she's mostly working standing and it's a bit higher than a normal desk. So I thought, since I got some leftover wood from the project, so the same wood, I would be building a stool that is a bit higher so she could use that sitting at the desk. So yeah, let's get on it.
So, as all the wood was pre-milled from the previous project, I could get straight into selecting which boards I could use to get the pieces I need for the stool. Then, starting to rip the boards into the pieces I wanted. These will be about 3 cm times 3 cm, so about inch and a quarter. After that, I could set my stop block and start cutting the pieces to the correct length. First squaring off the other end and then cutting it to length with the stop block. Once I had all the pieces cut, I could glue up the only panel I need for the project, which is the seat for the stool. It's quite nice feeling not to have glue up so many panels as I usually have done with the pieces that I've made. Then, while the panel was drying, I could start cutting the joints for the base of the stool. The joints will be bridle, half flap and just butt joints with dowels, depending on the spot. First, I laid out the bridle joint for the long piece to connect the horizontal piece at the bottom and the top piece, then using crosscut sled to cut the joint before cleaning it up with a chisel. Now that I've built the crosscut sled, I can only think that I should have done it earlier, because it makes many of these cuts so much easier and safer. Then I mark down the joint on the pieces that I will be attaching to the long piece and cut those again using the crosscut sled. Then, once the fit on the joint was good enough, I could start laying out the joinery for the next pieces. The top will get another piece, so the seat will get proper support, and for that joint I went with a half flap joint. If you've made it this far on the video, I think this is a good spot to remind you that if you are enjoying this, please consider leaving it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel as well. As the stool is higher than a normal stool due to the fact that it will be used with a standing height desk, there is a need for footrest as your feet don't reach the ground. Or maybe they do if you are 7 feet tall, but since the stool is for my wife, she isn't, so there is a need for that. So I will be adding one that will be connected to the horizontal support between the legs to keep them from spreading apart. I will be attaching these pieces with some dowels to each other. Once all the joinery was prepped, it was time to go back to the seat and start planing it smooth. Another nice thing with the project was that there was only one panel, which was also quite small, so there wasn't that much planing needed either. After the planing, it was time to do some sanding, as it will be a lot easier to sand the pieces now rather than after the assembly. Another thing that was easier to do now was making the holes for attaching the seat to the base. So I first drilled a larger hole halfway through the top piece and then with a smaller drill bit all the way through. The smaller hole is still a bit larger than the screws I will be using to allow for seasonal movement. Next, it was time to assemble the base, and what a sculpture of clamps it ended up being. While the glue up was drying, I could continue working on the seat. I wanted to make it round, and the easiest way to do it for me was tracing the shape from our wok, which was the right size. Then cutting the shape with a jigsaw and then smoothing out the shape with a sander. Then, to add some visual interest to the piece, I added a chamfer to the bottom of the seat with a router, and then, to make the leg rest feel nicer under your feet, as in Finland we don't wear shoes inside, I added the same chamfer to the front edge. Before applying the finish, I had a couple of more things to do. Pre-drilling the holes for the screws and adding my Maker's Mark brand on the seat. Then it was time to finish the project. I used osmose oil wax that I used for the table, so the stool will match that. And then the project was done. It has been quite nice tackling these couple of smaller projects, as the next one I am picking up will be quite the opposite, but more on that later. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.